There were some positive aspects in the December budget. I welcome the reintroduction of the dairy equipment, sheep handling and water harvesting and pig welfare schemes. It is important that these schemes are kept open to the end of 2013. The stop-start situation which arose in 2011 must not be repeated. Farmers who are planning to invest need certainty and these grants will be available. The continuation of the suckler cow welfare scheme and the allocation of $5 million to beef discussion groups is a positive signal to the livestock sector. The suckler cow welfare scheme is delivering and it must continue in 2013. The budget maintained forestry premiums which are essential to maintaining confidence. However, the 30% cut in forestry roads and woodland improvement scheme will make it more difficult for growers to mobilise our forest resource and manage plantations. The Forestry Committee is tackling this issue. In 2011, IFA highlighted the need for greater incentives for lifetime farm transfer and land mobility. The reduction of stamp duty rates for farmland and the retention of agricultural relief and retirement relief were positive signals. However, capital gains tax remains a major barrier to reducing farm fragmentation. Relief from capital gains tax for the purpose of farm consolidation is needed. On carbon tax, the double taxation relief is not sufficient to deliver on the government's commitment. IFA is putting forward practical proposals to provide the promised relief for farmers. IFA opposes any attempt to apply a NASA test for third-level education grants, which includes farmland or buildings. This would discriminate against low-income farm families and deny their children the opportunity of going to college. Access to credit at a competitive rate will be a critical component of the expansion of the agricultural sector. Banks are pushing up interest rates and charges at every opportunity and getting away with it. I want to see the financial regulator tackle this issue. Credit difficulties remain for many farmers. Banks must be prepared to agree realistic solutions that deal with unsustainable debt burdens and leave farm families with a viable future. 2011 was a good year for dairy farmers and for the dairy industry. The overall outlook for 2012 remains positive, although markets have eased from the peak of mid-2011. The co-ops are well positioned to hold milk prices at December 2011 levels for the spring at least. This is because during the market recovery, co-ops were able to increase their margin over and above the prices passed back to farmers. The weaker euro will also help. Under current EU rules, there is no soft landing for Irish dairy farmers, and super levy is a constant threat. IFA will continue our campaign for greater flexibility to achieve a genuine soft landing in the run-up to the Commission review later in 2012. I will be raising this issue today with Commissioner Sholes. However, farmers producing over-quota milk must consider the risks, as there is still very strong opposition in Europe to greater flexibility pre-2015. Industry preparations for the end of quotas must be advanced without any further delay. In these plans, co-ops and the Irish Dairy Board must recognise on-farm investment to deliver extra milk will cost up to €1.5 billion. For dairy expansion to work, the restructured dairy industry must be owned and controlled by active farmer shareholders. The dairy decisions must be made by milk supplier shareholders. IFA has consulted widely on this and presented detailed proposals to the industry. The final decisions on the future industry structure rest with co-op boards, but our proposals warrant serious consideration in planning the best way forward. With liquid milk production costs running at 39 cents a litre and prices at 35 cents a litre last year, producers are being denied a fair reward for their hard work and investment. The root cause is irresponsible and unsustainable retailer and industry discounting. Retailers and food service operators have a responsibility to help secure a fair share of retail returns for local produce. There will be no let-up in IFA's campaign for an economic return for producers. The National Milk Agency is responsible for ensuring adequate supplies of year-round quality fresh milk by registering producer contracts. The agency is fully financed by producers and dairies, and farmers want it retained. Milk production is set to increase for manufacturing purposes, but this milk will be seasonal. No one should take it for granted that locally produced fresh milk will be available for consumers all year round. 2011 was a good year for cattle prices. Over the past 2 years, prices have increased by €1 a kilo on average, or approximately €360 per head on a finished animal. However, cattle prices are only at the level where they need to be for suckler and beef farmers to get a real return from the marketplace. Price prospects for 2012 remain positive across our main markets in Britain and Europe. As a result of strong live exports in 2010, supplies at factories will be down 50 to 80,000 head in 2012. Selling cattle through the marts provides the best security of payment, and farmers should always insist on payment on the day. In these uncertain times, this is more important than ever. IFA's livestock strategy over recent years is working in terms of stabilising the sector and delivering higher cattle prices to producers. Our campaign on Brazil is preventing imports which fail to meet EU standards. Our campaign on live exports is maximising price competition, and our campaign to reward quality is increasing the number of farmers in quality assurance and winning supermarket shelf space for Irish beef. To further incentivise quality and sustain viable returns, we need to increase the QPS bonus and include other categories. Towards the end of 2012 and into 2013, we will see higher supplies of Frisian cattle on the market. This creates an opportunity for the resumption of the traditional live export trade to the Middle East and North Africa. Restoring this trade must be a priority for Minister Coveney in 2012. Strong prices have stabilised our national suckler cow herd. We need to drive beef sector growth in line with the Food Harvest 2020 plan. Our suckler herd supplies the superior quality grass-fed high-muscle beef, which is making advances in higher-priced retail outlets in Britain and across Europe. The incorporation of the Suckler Cow Welfare Scheme without the bureaucracy in CAP 2013 is essential to lay the foundations for profitable expansion of the beef sector. The funding of the beef discussion groups is a positive move. The conditions must be kept simple and practical so that the real rewards are delivered to participants. Tagish has a crucial role to play and must improve its game to deliver for beef farmers. Overall, our ambitious growth plans for agriculture can only be achieved if Tagish better targets its resources towards delivering a stronger advisory and education service for all sectors. Lamb prices increased by a further 10% last year to an average of €103 per head. Our ewe flock is finally beginning to recover. To sustain the recovery and drive growth at farm level, price levels must be maintained by processors. Lifting consumption is challenging, but this can be met with strong promotion and renewed focus on quality. Processors need to properly reward producers for quality and quality assurance. The sheep grassland payment secured by IFA must be retained as part of CAP 2013. The hill sheep sector requires a positive package of measures to regrow numbers on a sustainable basis as part of the review of the Common Framework Plans. Further steps to introduce electronic tagging cannot be allowed to hamper recovery and growth at farm level. My message to Minister Coveney is clear. Ireland must adopt a minimalistic approach with no negative impact at farm level. The Sheep Committee is working with all industry stakeholders to implement an expansion plan and to drive growth and profit at farm level. On direct payments, I want to acknowledge that the department unit in Portlaoise paid out the great majority of the single farm payment and disadvantaged area case on time in 2011, although there are still some delays in outstanding cases. However, I cannot say the same for REPS and AEOS, where payments have not been delivered on time and the overall performance is inexcusable. The delays encountered by farmers selected for inspection or with digitisation or transfers are totally unacceptable. I want to say to Minister Coveney, these delays cannot be tolerated. Farmers have incurred compliance costs. They have bank and other commitments. In 2012, there must be a serious improvement in the delivery of REPS and AOS payments. Minister Coveney is committed to a new and improved Charter of Rights for farmers. IFA is insisting on 4 key principles. Firstly, an end to unannounced inspections. Farmers must have a right to advance notice for all inspections. Second, fair and adequate tolerance levels. Penalties cannot be justified for inadvertent non-compliance. Third, the elimination of unnecessary and frustrating red tape. And fourth, improvement payment deadlines. I want to say very clearly to Minister Coveney, IFA will not settle for less than this. Serious discussions must commence immediately with a tight time frame for conclusion. Unpredictable weather patterns have again made nonsense of calendar farming. Farmers cannot wait for the next nitrates review. Practical solutions must be implemented as dictated by the weather. As a major exporter of meat, milk and livestock, it is vital that our animal health status continues to meet the highest international standards. IFA led the way in ensuring that a cost-effective short-term BVD eradication programme was up and running this January. In order to maximise uptake in the voluntary phase and reduce costs for farmers, IFA secured financial support towards the disposal cost of PI calves and protecting the welfare of suckler cows where a PI calf is removed. The move to a compulsory programme must be keep costs to a minimum and not disrupt the normal trade for healthy animals.